Morning woodcrafters. Right, just a little one for you that are getting into hand tool woodworking and what have you. Everybody seems to have this obsession with dovetails, but every time I've come to teach anybody about dovetails or out like that, once they've mastered sewing straight, it's a fairly basic thing. The one that everybody seems to struggle with, that I find, is mortise and tenons. Now, a lot of people make the tenons first. I don't. I've always found it easier to cut my mortise first, because it's a lot easier to pare your tenon down to fit in your mortise than what it is to slice your mortise up to fit your tenon. Now, I'll just show you a couple of little bits here. Now, traditionally, everybody marks the mortises with one of these, a mortise gauge. And you set your 2 pins out here to what your width of your chisel is, your mortise is going to be. You set in your shoulder and you mark down. You don't need to do that. All you need to mark is one edge, because your chisel denotes your width of your mortise. So then, once you've marked your shoulders on, from one side. Now, the way I were taught to do it, to keep it right, is when you're first learning, mark yourself some parallel lines on. And I'll show you the reason for these in a second. Now, mortise chisels, you don't need a massive amount on them. 3 basically. If you've got a quarter, a 3/8, and a 15mm ½ inch, you can basically, in theory, do any size mortise. So once you've done that, get your mortise chisel. Now, this is the one, everybody likes this type of mallet just lately, and yeah, the sound. And if you're doing pine, that's great, but if you're going into some hardwood, you want something with a bit of heft. So an homemade mallet, something you can get a good twat with. This is, I start sort of centrally, and all you need to do is put this back edge up against your shoulder line that you've marked, and put it against one of your parallel lines. Put your chisel straight up, get a good bash. Don't be frightened. Now, your chisel automatically follows down that line of chamfer there. So if you turn it round and get it on next parallel line, it'll automatically cut a V. I think I'm being a bit heavy and camera's moving, but you'll see me gist. Move back a parallel line, whack. Now, I always stop 4 or 5mm from my back shoulder, because you want something to lever against when you're clearing debris out, and you don't want to damage your shoulder. So when you get to squaring that up, you will literally just start, hold your chisel down, take it back. A lot of people drill these. You don't need to if you've a set of mortise chisels. It's a process wasted, and a mortise chisel is just basically a flat-sided chisel and this big thick wedge that you can cut into. when you come to squaring your sides up, if you make yourself a little block and pop that on like that and keep your chisel flat against it, you can't go wrong with cutting square. So as long as you know this is at 90 and you've trued that up to 90, you can clamp that on there, par down it with your paring chisels to clean waste out later and take it out. I hope for you that are doing a bit of hand tool woodworking, you do have a go and cut your own mortices. It's a nice thing when you've done everything by hand, just for a change. And that's the way I learnt. And it's a real easy way. You just have to master putting your chisel in the right place. Have fun making.